So just a quick little thing before we properly dive into the video. I recently attended the Great Electric Train Show for the weekend, and whilst there, someone came and found me and explained that they'd seen the videos, blah de blah, and they'd noticed that in the background there are always an awful lot of trains just dumped, such as you've got all these just sitting on the shelf. You've got all these wagons, and there were more here the other day, which now are up on this shelf that I've put up. You've got very expensive tube trains. There's so much stuff in here and I just don't have enough storage. So this guy kindly came up to me and presented me with a storage box, which I've got here. And he said, Eric, if you show this on one of your videos, you can have this on us. We thought it might help you out, and we thought you could do the same and help us out a little bit. So obviously a free Loco storage box, or rolling stock storage box, or whatever. I was never going to turn that down, so here we are. But yeah, let's have a quick look. So this is the box. If you went up on the balcony, you would have noticed Train Sporter's stand, and they create little storage trays to go in these little useful storage boxes. So they kindly gave me one for free and just said, if you don't mind, can you give us a little shout out on a video? So here we are. But yeah, it's a little storage box with laser cut inserts. If I just take the lid off, you'll see I've already filled it up. I've chucked a load of S-stock coaches in there. So we've got 10 slots in there for vehicles. Obviously, underground trains are a little bit shorter than your average sort of coach. So you would probably quite easily fit Mark 1 coaches in there. Probably even Mark 3s, actually. Let's test the theory. Yeah, there you go. You'd fit Mark 3s in there. So you would get... what is this, 8? I think it's 8 slots. So you get a 2 plus 6 HST in there, for example, if you wanted. But yeah, really good. Obviously, it'll keep them nice and snug and safe with this foam. It does come with the inserts that go in these pieces as well. So if, like me, you've got trains that don't quite take up the whole room, and you're going to dedicate it, in my example for this, then I could take those blocks of foam, cut them to this sort of size, and then they would stop anything from moving around. But I've just chucked these in here for now. It does also come with these... oh, I've broken that. With these plastic sheets, which I think are similar to what you get in Loco boxes and stuff, to line the trays, which just helps you sort of pull out the rolling stock a bit easier and save any detail getting snagged. But yeah, we'll just chuck the lid back on. I'm really pleased with that. So that's going to obviously tidy up that area a bit. I don't really want my underground trains sitting out because they're worth an awful lot of money. So that's very handy. But yeah, you can see where they're from. It's Train Sporters, www.trainsporters.com, info@trainsporters.com for email, I would assume. And you've got their phone number there. So if you're after a little storage box, I'd recommend it. So go grab yourself one. Anyway, let's get back to the video. Right, welcome back to the railway. And after last time, you would have seen that I was working out what to do with this board, and I worked out I want to have a sort of self-contained Crotchley tip inspired baseboard, so that the whole thing is on this one baseboard. If I ever want to take it out for exhibitions or something like that, or if I ever need to take the layout apart, then it doesn't ruin this scene because it's not going across 2 boards. So as I say, it's going to arc around there. But that obviously leaves me with the issue of the road. Now, of course, this road, the idea is up that far end, I'm going to have a loop. So where this sticks out, that's going to stick out the whole way along. Then there's a baseboard that goes above there. And then in the centre, I think there might be a roundabout or something. The idea is to have like a little sort of row of houses around. However, obviously I'm going to be limited with space. So it'll probably be sort of like a half semicircle sort of jobby. So the idea is you can drive up there, you can turn around, you can come back. I want to do the same in this corner over here. So I want to turn back loop over here. Obviously to do that, I need to get a road from there all the way to here. So I've got this big offcut of 5mm ply. Now the whole top section here is 5mm. I'm using this pine stuff from B&Q that I get. That's to make it all the same height. That's the height I wanted it anyway. So by using this every time, it means that the top is always at the height I want. So I've just loosely placed the new bit of track that's going to go in place. It's just literally chucked there just so I can sort of draw around it and work out where things are going to go. So as you can see, the road is going to have to narrow down, but through that section I will still easily get a bus and maybe a car on the other side. I might just have to cut the pavement off, which is no problem at all. I don't really mind. Then from there, of course, the road can come down slightly and come around. From there it will just be on an embankment rather than retaining walls. So this is going to have to be another set of retaining walls, I believe. But yeah, from there going around, probably be some sort of small embankment because it's got a curve all that way around. And then ignoring the polystyrene, because I was just eyeing stuff up, it's going to have to, of course, come around here. It's going to have to go up the back and turn around and come back on itself. But in the foreground, it's going to have to link up with this bridge. So it's going to have to come up around here and then just curve in right at the end. So I've not got a load of the back of this layout, this sort of scene gone. So just curve in, maybe a retaining wall there as well, just a short section. And then as well on the back there's going to be a bridge where that sort of little stub is that is used for a head shunt. That's going to be a little bridge going across that way as well, just to link it all up. The only thing with this is it will have to probably be removable because of course this board flips up. So it'll be the case where I'll flip this board down and then just place that piece of road in, and the rest of it I'll probably get away with it. Maybe this little section will have to be removable as well, but the rest of it from there will all obviously be permanently fixed down. But yeah, and in doing this as well, once this is sorted, I can then work out what's going to go on with this top level of the bridge, because I don't know how wide to make it at the minute. I'm not really sure. I don't really want to make it too wide. I might actually sort of cut it about there, and then just have that little sort of gap down the back disappearing into the background. But we'll see. I mean, at the end of the day, I don't want to go too mad. It is meant to just be a road, but I did originally want to fit buildings on this side, but I think it's just going to be too much work and I can't really be bothered. I want to get trains running. But yeah, so I'm just going to chop this out with the multi-tool. We'll lay that across and then we'll start drawing our road on. So that's chopped down now. What I'm going to do is I'm going to mark out where I want the road, because I want it to come as far this way as possible. I've just chopped down as well that hinge, because that corner was going to be in the way. So I've just flattened off across there. Ignore all the marks and the grinder. Obviously you'll never see that once it's all done. But yeah, so now I'm going to, as I say, do a road from this edge. It's probably going to come in a bit and then sweep out again. So I'll do that, same again on this side, and then I'll chop that out. There's that section of road then, the base is all sort of done. I've shaped some polystyrene there, some foam sort of stuff, to continue that embankment, and obviously it's going to go off scene, so we don't really have to worry about that, unless I, for some strange reason, one day decide to go a bit mad and bolt stuff onto the side of this board just to continue that. I mean, I've got to sort out that head shunt piece anyway, but I'm thinking we could just do an off-seam bit there, just a little bolt on. It doesn't really matter, but we'll see in the future. But yeah, you can see that's in. You can see the sort of idea now that we're going for. So it's going to continue that road down that direction. It's got a little bit of a curve on it, and I've left a little bit of a lip here. I almost screwed this in with this piece flush, and then I remembered that these retaining walls, actually they need a bit of a lip so that they can sit in, otherwise they'll stick out at the top. So luckily I remembered that right at the end. There's the shape then. So the road obviously is going to continue around from here, around a curve, and then it's going to go around that way and then across here, and you'll have a sort of junction where you can go across onto this road, or you can carry that way, which will be like a sort of residential street probably. I'm not 100% sure yet. I might just do some sort of trees and woods and stuff in the middle, so it looks like it's just two roads coming together. And then this is where the bridge is going to be, so I've just cut this piece to size. That's going to be the bridge deck. So it gives you an idea of what's going to happen. So cars will come up here and have the option of turning left, of course. So you can turn left, go across the bridge, go straight on, which will be, I guess, the main road, which is where they'll turn around and come back. So if I get a couple of RC vehicles, that'd be cool. So a return loop either end, or as I say, you can go off to the right and go across Harefield Road towards Uxbridge that way. So that's the general idea. Now I've got to get it up in the air and try and support it all. Right, here's the cobbled up piece that I've made that's going to sit in that corner, and then I'm going to have an embankment coming down. I decided rather than do polystyrene layering up to it, because this is going to be something that could get knocked about if I ever remove this board, decided to just make it out of wood. So I've just used 9mm ply and then a batten down the bottom, and I filled it in at the back. That's all got Gorilla Glue in it, and Gorilla Glue is amazing stuff. If you've never used it, it goes rock hard. But yeah, you can see it there. That's just going to sit in the corner like that. You'll have to ignore that gap. That gap is my fault, because when I built Harefield, I never built it out to the edge of the baseboard. Don't ask me why. It's something that I need to fix. So I will sort that. So that gap is purely the Harefield side's problem, not this board. So this board, I'll build it up to this edge, and then that should be mint. So I'll glue that down. I'll probably put a couple wood screws up from underneath, and then that should be good to go. Then so I'll get some polystyrene, start sort of shaping it all. Obviously, I mean, it doesn't need to be as wide as that, so in doing this with some scraps, it will save me some polystyrene anyway, so it's a bit of a bonus. And as I say, it'll be a lot stronger. So I'm going to sort that out now, glue that down, attach it, and then shape some polystyrene up and go from there. So here's where we are now up to. This from here to here is now all screwed in. It's all solid. Here there's no support, there's just a piece of batten between the two, because I don't know if you realised, I'm sure I said it earlier actually, but this is all offcuts that I had left. So of course this wasn't long enough naturally, so I've used that little bit. Ignore the gap, that was me. Measure once, cut twice. So that's gonna have a bit of filler in there, so that you won't notice it in the long run, so don't worry about it. And that is also me measuring once, cutting twice. Oi, misses. Because I didn't have the road in the right place when I cut the foam, because I'm an idiot. However, this front bit is looking good. Obviously we've got this little sliver in here, that will stay with this board, and when that comes away, this will hopefully form an embankment. So I wanted it like this, so it gives the idea of the embankment's just going off scene, so it continues all the way around, rather than it get to here and then stop, which is how I actually made this in the first place, hence I've cut this. I then thought it's going to look a lot better if I can manage to get that embankment on the whole layout. I say whole layout, I keep saying that, I don't know why. It's not a layout, it's a bloody baseboard. Obviously I need to fill in a little bit here, but I am considering maybe instead, because that's not a nice clean cut there, I might do the same here, square that bit off and put a small bit of this retaining wall that I've used on Harefield, because I've got a few bits left over I think somewhere, if not maybe out of plastic card, and just have a small little retaining wall there as like a sort of bit where some scrap is a sort of chucked next to one of the roads. So obviously the track's going to come round here, and then as I say, yeah, you can have a little bit there, or a small little neck for storing a wagon or something. I'm not sure. If I can manage to go with the idea of the inner loop being the loop for the wagons, then of course that would work. I could have a point, and then that could be a short little neck for storing a loco or a wagon. So that would be pretty cool actually. Thinking about it, that might be quite interesting to do. But yeah, so you can see the way the road sweeps back in. Obviously this embankment's going to continue round, so this whole board will have embankment on it. This end's going to have a retaining wall, which obviously is going to need to be high enough to take Harefield's embankment. I don't know if I will raise it up here to account for the difference in height. I might do something there. So I might sort of take the top of this off and add a bit more polystyrene going up, and a few more bits of plaster cloth, just so that they actually end up at the same height, because it looks a bit silly as it is. and it means I wouldn't need as funky a retaining wall. But yeah, I've got to now chop across this line, because of course this piece will stay with this board. Once I've chopped that, then obviously this can all be glued down. Then it can obviously all have the rest of the back and stuff all sort of sorted out at some point, so it's all nice and neat. And then from there I will have a small retaining wall piece here, just because it's quite tight with the track, so I'm going to need something there. Right, I can't remember exactly where we got to last time. It's been a couple of days and I've been doing other stuff, but we are back on the project. You can see I've got the rough track plan laid out. I've just gently screwed down bits of track just to give me an idea of what I want to do. So this is how the yard will probably look. Apart from, I might actually use a right hand point, because I do have one spare, and instead use a right hand point here. The reason I'll do that is, as you can see, it will just give me a much longer siding. So yeah, just imagine that's there, but this is going to be the general plan. So the train will come in on the front road. I've changed my mind on that. I'll keep knocking stuff over. So the train will come in on the front road. It's just long enough for 3 wagons, 2 brake vans. The loco will come off into the head shunt, it will run round, and then it can either go on the front and mess about with the train or whatever, or I can use that little LT Sentinel that you would have seen to back the train in or something like that. Obviously we've then got this road free for doing other stuff, and you can have this siding here for putting an old wagon or storing a loco in, things like that. The other thing is, if it does get to be a bit of a pain in the backside with it being very tight space wise for running rounds, then you can of course just come in with the train and then mess about with another loco, back half the train in one side and back the other half in here and such, and that would obviously work out. But yeah, it's looking pretty good. I'm quite happy with that sort of idea. But anyway, we're doing the embankments now, so you can see I've got this piece in, and here where it gets a bit tight, we're going to have these 2 bits of retaining wall, and then there's going to be the bridge coming along here. So I will have to change this piece, because that wasn't a very good idea in hindsight now. So I'll change it for a bit that goes straight across, and then also comes across here a little for the bridge. And hopefully that, when that's all filled in, that'll look nice. Obviously I've had to put it up slightly on a bit of a riser there. I'm going to go over this now with some fiberglass to stop the polystyrene getting eaten away. I actually went over it all with a layer of Gorilla Glue last night to try and sort of give it a bit of a barrier. But yeah, I'm going to go over it with a coat of fiberglass now, so it's more like a little embankment down. Hopefully that will get us by for now. And I've also been doing this side. So this side's got embankments in as well. And we're going up to what will be the bridge across here. Obviously there will be a wall, a brick wall going along before the actual openings start. So that should all come together nicely. But now I'm going to get the fiberglass out for this little piece. And then I'm going to get the plaster cloth. I've got 2 bags there, and I'm going to go over this and the back. So I'm going to crack on. There we go then. I've made a lot of mess, but as you can see, we now have brown hillsides. So this section here, this thin bit that goes up, and then all of that, and then all of that, is all polystyrene with a layer on top and then a layer of fiberglass on top. The reason for that is because I want it to be nice and strong for if this board ever comes out. And there is a split line just down there, which I might have to run a knife back down now that I've put the plaster cloth in, but that should be nice and strong, so hopefully that'll do the job. On the back it's all polystyrene, and you can see there it goes all the way up to where the new bridge is going to be. And I sunk the 2 retaining walls into the fiberglass, sorry. So they're actually like nice and sort of seamlessly in there now. I need to put a little bit of glue behind them, because at one point I decided I wanted to take them back out again, then realised the fiberglass had gone off too much, by which point I had broken the seal on the back, so now it's a little bit wobbly. But I can always put a little bit more down the back of it to strengthen it back up. But in any case, it's not going to be a problem. There's always epoxy resin for that. But yeah, you can see the sort of general idea now. Nice sort of little hillside sweeping around, road along the top, and then of course sweeping down on the back as well. The nice thing about this is, obviously most people say that the thing you don't want to do with layout is fill it with track. Obviously this section has a lot of track, being as we've got a yard in the front, then we've got the branch line running along the back, 2 main lines, and then we're going to have that sort of yard going off one day. However, obviously with the road raised up in the centre, it means that if you view it from sort of down here, you can't actually see what's going on at the rear. And it's the same if you're down this end, videoing trains, you can't tell that there's a yard there. So my thinking there was that sort of separates them off enough where it doesn't just look silly. But in any case, I'm quite pleased with it. So I think that's going to look pretty good. Obviously, I've got to continue going along with it. The main bit now is going to be to get that split in before I continue, really. Hopefully that'll work out. Obviously I've got to put a bit of filler in this section, fill in all the screw heads, stuff like that, before we properly go the road. I'll probably just for now just paint the road surface back on again until I'm really fully ready to commit, because that's just a mix of grey primer and satin black paint anyway, rather than the actual expensive textured Rust-Oleum paint that I use. But yeah, hopefully you'll like the idea. Fingers crossed it's going to look pretty good. Ignore the mess. I'm now building the bridge that's going to go in this space. Hence there's stuff absolutely everywhere. But you would have seen this is the bridge top. I had to trim it down ever so slightly this end because it was just a touch too long, so it was pushing the back seam out. So I've trimmed that down and I've made these sides to go on. You can see the structure here. It goes this way round, so it fits. Get it in without breaking it, because it's quite weak without the top on, you see. There we go. So it sits in there, you can see, against the embankment. That's why all the mess is here. I've been cutting this out. The problem I was having is I wanted to do 2 arches. So I wanted to do this arch to replicate a bridge that actually exists, and then I wanted to basically do a second smaller arch as if it's like an afterthought sort of thing. Problem I had is doing the second arch, I had it all cut out and I couldn't get a coach through, so I was using a Mark III just because they are the longest vehicle I have. Not that a Mark III would go up the branch line, but when it got to around there, it was hitting on the side. It will smack the inside of that arch. If you see, it's just too close to the curve, and because it continues to curve this way. So extending the arch outwards wouldn't have looked right. So I thought, rather than that, we'll keep the arch on the main lines, and then instead we'll go for a short single girder bridge, and we can leave a little bit more room this side as if there is sort of a position of safety for track workers. So we can put a blue limited clearance sign here, which means there's no position of safety, but there is on the other side of the line. So that's why we've got that gap there for people to walk through, and obviously it serves as a bit of extra clearance for stuff running in. So I've also done it at an angle, so you can tell if you look here, it looks a bit skew if. That's because the top actually runs along straight for about 5 centimetres, and then it goes down on a gradual incline. So I thought it would make it look a little bit nicer than having it all the same sort of level, and it would give that indication that the road isn't all this sort of height. So that's why this is a funny angle. That's because of the girders that go in there. So that's to match the girders, and then of course the road top goes yeah, it's that way around, so that sits on there. But then of course I'm going to be putting brick on the whole sort of face, but then the brick will also go up higher. So obviously the girders will sit up until this line, just where that road bit is, and then the brick will start, and that will give us the sort of overlap to stop people falling to their deaths. Yeah, going back to how far apart the running lines are, you can see obviously it's going to be a bit wider this end, so it's a bit of a sort of skewed bridge, but hopefully it'll be interesting to look at when it's done. But yeah, I think that's going to look pretty cool. It'll blend all this scene in, and it should look pretty good. Right, I've had an absolute mare building this, just getting bits to fit right and stuff like that, and lining insides so that it all is seamless. We're pretty much there now. So this is all in grey primer before I put a coat of engineer's blue sort of colour brick paint on. And then of course I'll have to sort out the road as well, because when I was fitting it together, I actually snapped through that little bit that I was cutting. I did get it to flex round enough, but then when I was trying to actually fit it to the bridge sides, I managed to break it, so you can see there is a join. So a bit of filler, you'll never know. I've got a couple street lamps as well to go on there, hence there's a couple of holes in the paving on that side. And the paving is sort of recessed out a little bit for that wall to make it a little bit narrower. And on the other side I'll probably just put a small curb or something like that. But yeah, I think it's going to finish this area off really nice. Of course, I'll have to decide what I want to do over in this area, whether I do some sort of Photoshop bit with a little bit of back seam that I can plonk in there so it looks as if there is a wall that comes down. That'd probably look a bit better than having this sort of bare bit in the wall where the head shunt is. It's a shame the head shunt doesn't sort of end here really, because then I'd just bring a wing wall in and then have a bit of sort of embankment coming down, like a really thin sort of bit. But it's just the limitations of the space. If I made it any shorter, then you wouldn't be able to turn back with a loco. So it is a bit of a nightmare. But anyway, for now, pretty pleased. So yeah, let's get some paint on it and see how it looks. So I've brought the bridge inside now just because it's getting a bit late, and to be honest, it's getting cold this time of year. So I couldn't be bothered to sit there mixing up a hell of a load of blue brick paint and taking ages to brush it on there and then wait for it to dry. So I had some Halford's blue paint from when I previously painted something in First Great Western colours, and I had some satin black and obviously grey primer. So I basically mixed the three together, just spraying on from quite a distance until I've got a sort of colour that I was semi-happy with as a kind of blue brick base. Just moving the light because it's a bit hard to see. You'll have to take my word for it. It is fairly sort of blue brick-ish. So hopefully by the time I get a wash of this, which is bright ivory, which I just happened to buy the other day because this is the colour I use for tube trains. By the time I got a wash of that on and then wiped it off, hopefully it will tone it down where it looks about right. And then of course with some weathering and stuff, it should look pretty good. So fingers crossed anyway, but the only way to find out is by cracking on, I suppose. Here's the bridge then, all painted. You can see it's painted up and it's got a nice mortar wash on there, and I've chucked a little bit of weathering powder over it just to tone it down a little bit, and I'm really pleased. I think that's going to look cracking once the scenery here is all blended in. This was all just very, very quickly done one day when I was really bored, and it wasn't done to a good standard, as you can see. The ballast on the main line is alright, and the ballast there is fine. This weren't too bad because obviously it needed weathering anyway. However, when I've done the plaster cloth for the hillsides, I've got a lot of plaster over the ballast. So what I've done is I actually got a wire brush on a drill, and that's the only way I could seem to get rid of it. So that obviously kicked a load of the ballast up and made a massive mess. So what I will do is I'll come along and I will go back over the patches with some fresh ballast to tie it all back in again. And sort of blend it all in. I've got to at some point glue the bridge down, whether I glue it or not 100%. I need to of course fit the street lights that were going to go in before I do that, so that the wiring is there ready. So I will do that. In reality I probably will just glue it down because I've got to ballast around it anyway, as you can see. So I've got to fill them spare bits of ballast in, them empty bits of ballast in, and go from there. So that's going to glue it down either way, so I might as well, hadn't I? I had these two low relief buildings in my spares box that I found at Anthony's shop once upon a time. Never used them, but I figured down here they kind of maybe will go, so I might make use of those there. Just because obviously I need something low relief just to fill the sort of back scene up really. So I'll probably make do with those and leave those where they are for now. And yeah, basically I'm just going to come along, sort the ballast out, and then start putting some greenery on. I might actually get some foam and put a little sort of raised area in the middle, just so the land looks like it's raised up a bit and the railway's been cut down into it, and it would hopefully sort of separate the main lines off from the branch. And then when it comes around here, it obviously spreads out a bit more, so we can get a bit taller there. We can put a few trees in, things like that. So that might help separate the two sort of lines off. But yeah, so I'm going to crack on and hopefully get some greenery on here and sort that out. I've got to do the filler on the road as well, really, before I do static grass, because obviously the sanding dust will go everywhere. So I've got to fill like these bits in, all the screw holes, stuff like that, and then I can get the paving in. Yeah, the other thing that I've done is I fit this little retaining wall in. Needs a coat of brown paint where the IPA/water mixture that I use for the ballast has discoloured it. I've just put the ballast in. Basically it was glued down, but I've ballasted just that little area to help sort of keep it supported, give it a little bit more strength at the bottom with all the PVA and stuff. So I hope it'll be nice and strong, because of course the track is going to come up to here anyway. But yeah, so I've got a few bits to do still before the end of this video, so let's get a move on. So using polystyrene, I've created this little sort of mound in the centre of the main lines and the branch line. So I'm going to go ahead and cover that with some Plastering. I'll just cut a load of strips up, and we're going to crack on with that and hopefully get a nice solid sort of shell that we can put some sort of grass and bushes and stuff over. And fingers crossed we won't make too much of a mess over the track this time. So lo and behold, I've stolen the saucepan out of the kitchen. Don't tell Charlotte. I'm sure when she sees this she'll have a fit. But in any case, it's just a case of quickly dipping these little bits of plaster cloth in the water, chucking them on, smoothing them out a bit. That's all you got to do. Handily as well, it dries fairly quick, so we'll probably be able to get some paint on this pretty sharpish. Well, we've made an absolute mess. There's PVA everywhere, there's ballast everywhere, there's green scatter everywhere. So hopefully with the click of a finger, it'll all be dry. Well, yeah, you can see I've got all that sorted then. I've got a lot of static grass all over it, and I got the airbrush out and gave the track a bit of a weathering. So we're just running some trains now to test the track is okay. Seems to be alright, just needs a good clean, to be honest. I haven't thoroughly cleaned it, but stuff is running through, as you can tell. Just running this stuck on the inner line, and then just giving my little Dapol 59 a little run on the outer with a 66 that I bought second hand, and took the motor and drive shafts out so that it can run freely. If you ever do this, remember you've got to take the worm drives actually out of the gear towers to allow it to run free enough to do this. But the plan long term for this loco is I'm going to fit a flashing tail lamp on that end, and of course the 59 is running around fairly happy. It's just got a random chip in it at the minute, so I will shortly put a Locksound V5 in, so that I've got sound and so that all the lighting functions work. Because currently I've got tail lights one end in the wrong direction, and randomly the cab light comes on when it's running, so that's about it. But yeah, you can see here the scene's coming together. We got, as I say, a lot of static grass in. I think that mound in the middle, yeah, I'm pretty glad I went with that. I just think it gives it a nice sort of feel, really. It makes the branch line just look like it's a separate railway, better railway sort of thing altogether, rather than just completely filled with track. Just segregates it off. You see leading down to the bridge, obviously look pretty cool in my opinion anyway. With the weathering, you can see that I've gone and fitted some dark patches here and over here, and a few various spots. Basically they are in the areas where I will be fitting the signals eventually. So this patch here, there'll be a signal here facing this way. You've got this patch here, there'll be a signal here just protecting this crossover. This one here will have a signal just before the curve, and there'll be a signal before this set of points go in this direction. So that is the reasoning for the weathering there. Obviously I've not gone and stacked grass all the front yet to make it look all pretty, so it's still looking like a mess. That'll probably be in the next video or so. I'll do it at some point soon. Just sort of working out what I want to do with it all, and I've still got to run a knife or a blade or something along there just to separate the two pieces of embankment so that this can come out. Obviously at some point in the future I will properly lay the track and start looking at all that, but I think I've got plenty to do for the minute before I start messing about with that. Now a lot of you will probably be wondering, what am I doing with that space in the rear corner? So originally on the layout I was going to do a little sort of homage to Old Oak Common where I used to work. So there is a well-known company that builds laser cut sheds for 00 gauge that you probably have heard of. They did do a low relief trial run of an Old Oak Common shed, and it's exactly what I wanted, but he wouldn't cut me a second one. So I've been asking for years, and now, to be honest, I've given up. So I've now decided instead I'm going to build a sort of half relief, quarter relief, whatever you want to call it, just enough to fit a Loco in, replica of Neasden steam shed, because now that I'm doing all this, obviously I'll have the LT steam locos and stuff like that, so it'll give them somewhere to go. So I'm thinking they can use the crossover, come out of Harefield, run bi-direction around there, straight into the yard. Obviously this is going to be a good loop one day when I eventually get round to it, if I get round to it. The plan was, the point was going to come in here just before we get into Breakspear. So that's what that little road there was going to be. So that's going to be its own loop, and then here I was going to have this three-way point that I was going to mess about with, and then that was going to go into the two-road shed in the corner. So it would probably come out just sort of a Loco length, as I say, so just to here somewhere, so you can park something inside, and then I'd have a mirror in there so that it looks like the shed carries on, and then you've got enough space then to park a Loco outside, and then have a little road up the side of the shed itself. Hence I've dug these old pits out that I had from way back when, so they would obviously go in on one of the roads for dropping ash. But yeah, I think that will just fit the sort of idea a lot better, because then the steam engines can come out and they can mess about, they can go down to the tip area and stuff like that, and it just gives you something to do. So that's going to be the idea for that corner. But that'll obviously be a future episode. I'm looking at possibly getting JS Models to custom make me the shed, laser cut it of course, and along with that I might actually try and build a couple of his factories to get rid of these ones, because they're a bit taller and they're much nicer looking, so they would fill up that space. And I quite like the industrial sort of look. So the plan for the road then, obviously I'm happy with all this bit, that's all fine, just needs obviously finishing off. I will put the palisade fencing along the pathway the whole way. The original plan for this was for this just to be, oh dear, hello, just to be a country lane. Oh dear. We'll just take the Loco off, it's a bit heavy for them wagons. Yes, the original idea was this to be a country lane, hence it's quite narrow because it wasn't actually going to have a pavement. But I decided in the end I could fit a pavement on one side and just skew it all over, and there's still enough room for the vehicles. So I went with that idea. Down here, you'll see it's still looking the same. I've actually got to make a bit of a change. I didn't really think about it at the time, but obviously this piece and this piece need to come out when I lift the board up to get out the room. So as it turns out, I'm going to actually have to change this. So this piece, I'll have to make a longer bit and screw it onto here so that this all becomes one piece, and that's also going to have part of the bridge included in it. So that's why I've left that like that for now. I thought it's a bit too much to do in one video, but we can save that for the next one or one after, see what I get up to next. So hopefully it's not been too much just chatting away, and there's enough progress to keep you all happy. I'm aware I've probably wasted 40 minutes of your life, but if it's something you're into, then please remember to like, share and subscribe if you fancy it, and leave comments down below with your thoughts. Until next time, thank you for watching the video, and please leave suggestions on what I should get up to next. So from me, thanks for watching, and I'll see you again next time. Goodbye.